There are two things I would recommend every English major do with every book you read, especially for class, every book you study. The first is to ask yourself, what are the major structural turning points here? What happens that really changes the book? How is this book structured? How many parts are there under the surface? It's often not the chapter structure, but another kind of structure. Um, and it's worth thinking about what are the major events, where are the turning points, and going through and looking at where those pages are. That's fine. Here's another low and dirty trick that I recommend to you highly. You should do it just as a matter of routine. Sometimes it shows you nothing. More often, it'll show you something worth thinking about. Go to the middle of the book, the exact middle, and there are two different ways to count that, and see what's happening there. Ask yourself why. Now, our novel, The 100,000 Kingdoms, has um, has an obvious turning point that happens in about chapter 14. There's a massive reveal. That is not the middle chapter. Let's ask I have two questions here. First is, this is a novel, 29 chapters long. That means the chapters aren't all the same length, but um, chapter 15 would be the middle chapter. It is called Hatred. And what happens in this chapter? Yane, our protagonist, goes and confronts her grandfather Jakarta about the murder of her mother. Okay, so that's a major central crux in the Revenge for the Mother plot. But that's not all that happens in this chapter. Then Yane goes and has yet more interactions with the kind of like um, gods in bondage, the defeated gods who've made her part of her scheme, and they damn near kill her, trying to fulfill the scheme, and then are puzzled by it. Okay, so there are two different. This is a middle point of two different stories. Yane's conflict with her grandfather over the lost mother, and her problem with the kind of conspiracy of deities who are manipulating her to her own ends, and that was not working out. A conspiracy that they are losing control of, that is not working the way that they want it to. A crucial part of this plot is not the central character's agency. She is totally out of control of some of the big things, but these other vastly more powerful characters are trying to do something, and they're messing it up and having to improvise and go back to plan B. That they are not in full control. It's not that the protagonist is in full control, she isn't. But her luck is that nobody's really 100% in charge of this novel. This is also a novel that starts on page one. It's convenient. Sometimes it starts a few pages later in official numbering, and you have to do arithmetic to find the middle page. Not math, it's arithmetic. But this starts on page one and ends on 398. Bueno. So the middle page, you should always turn to the dead middle page, is the spread of pages 198 and 199. If you turn to pages 198 and 199, you will see Yane's formidable grandmother pull a knife on Nahadath, the Night Lord. Okay, says something crazy. If there's a okay, and then Nahadath is going to give another set of confessions, dark confessions, including all the people he killed as part of his plot. He's going to give a bunch of plot confessions. It's one of his functions here is to kind of disgorge plot secrets every so often. Okay. Let me suggest what those two, if we count chapter 15 as the midpoint, that's one thing. If we count the middle pages as the midpoint, which are in the middle, chapter 16, that's another. What those two literal midpoints have in common is like two plot strands are intersecting. In both cases, it's the plot strand of it's a story about indomitable matriarchal figures, and yeah, Yena doesn't have her mother anymore, but she has a totally formidable grandmother who is very much the matriarch and is squaring off against a more or less omnipotent being. Um, and we have the ongoing kind of secret history of Nahadath and the Anafadas and the Anafada and their conspiracy. Those three things go together. Maybe that works for you for this reading. Maybe that reading works for you for this book. Maybe it doesn't. But try the middle page trick. Sometimes you really find something.